welcome to Quest Me. Of course, I forgot to take the cover off. Gosh, there's always something at the beginning of these shows. Anyway, welcome to Quest Me, your Star Wars podcast that takes you on a quest through Legends and New Canon. My name is Josh, and I'm your forever host, friend, and Purgle Tamer. Today, we have very special guest, two of them actually. Unfortunately, Justin couldn't make it tonight. Not yet. He might be here later, but duty calls. And those of you that watch the show, you know that that happens sometimes with Justin, and he definitely, work is definitely a priority over the podcast. So we respect everything that he does and wish him a very safe evening. But tonight, of course, I have Phil with me. How are you doing today, sir?
I am doing really well, Josh. How are you, man?
Good. You have a new background. Look at that.
This is a temporary one. So North Glen Pirate Fest is this weekend.
Oh.
So Colorado folks, if you have not gotten to go check out the North Glen Pirate Festival, that is happening this weekend, and y'all should go check it out. So I can't be up there this weekend, but I am supporting my pirate crew from home. So you gotta, if you make it up that way, keep an eye out for the Crimson Mark.
Nice.
They are going to be running for Pirate King. We got a whole bunch of pirate activities going on, but they did unfortunately have to cancel their cardboard boat regatta. There's algae bloom in the lake where they would hold the event, and so everything else is happening, but the cardboard regatta is canceled for this year.
Well, that sounds like a great
pirates.
Time. Is it the same group that I met at Renaissance?
Yes,
cool.
It is. It's that
Awesome
same pirate crew that you met this summer.
Awesome group of people for sure.
Yeah,
they were good dudes. So, well, thanks again for being here this week, Phil. It's always good to have our local fact checker on the show to keep me honest. Today, we have filling in for Justin, no stranger to Quest Me. He's supposed to be on later on this year, too. Well, he was going to be joining us tonight, but unfortunately, I'm kidding. It's really good to have you here, Steve. Thanks for popping on the show at late notice. How you doing?
I don't know what we're supposed to do when we meet another Star Wars fan in the world. So I still give them the Vulcan salute, and it's like, but you have a Star Wars sticker, so you must know from my car to your car. That's what I mean.
I get it.
But
I get it.
So we don't have a hand gesture.
No, we just have the Force be with you. That's all.
I know, but you can't say that while we're driving. Thank you for having me on tonight.
Absolutely.
I get 2 episodes this season, but I know that if I hadn't come on tonight, when I came on for the finale, I would still be like, I got to talk about everything that happened in episode 5. And I would completely forget why I was there. So
you would have had to pull in the extra. So
perfectly
it's all good.
Happenstance.
Yeah, and Steve had hit me up earlier and was like, man, I really wish that I was on for this episode. And I was like, well, you're in luck because Justin might not be here, so I can keep you on deck. And I'm really, really happy that you're here to talk about this fantastic episode. It's one of the best things that we've seen in Star Wars in a long time. So,
and thankfully we have a Justin in the chat to take over for the.
Thank goodness we got our Jays covered.
I was just gonna say hello to Claire and Justin in the chat. Claire, is my volume a little bit better now? I turned it up a little bit. I know that I've been having some issues for some reason with my volume. I don't understand why, but hopefully it's better now. Yeah. But good to see you, Steve, again, and I am so excited to talk about this episode. But of course, we have to introduce a new friend of Quest Me and new person to the podcasting realm. I believe this is his first podcast ever. His name is Nick. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Great. It's super exciting to have you on. I met Nick at San Diego Comic-Con this year. He was on a panel with Shauna Tripkick. Is that how you say her name?
Tripsick?
Tripsick.
Okay.
We're never gonna get it.
No,
right?
but Shauna's the costume designer of Star Wars, and so yeah, And so Nick and I were fortunate enough to share a panel with her, and that's how we met. And we
And
had
Steve
kinda
was as
chatted,
well.
and
Steve was
Steve
on
was
that same
also
panel.
there. Yes, that's right.
I feel
Um,
left out.
yeah.
No, you were there
Hey,
in spirit.
I invited
There was a
you.
little,
All
there was a
right.
little pirate seat at the end.
You know, I
So that's
appreciate that,
probably
Nick.
where you were.
I
You know,
appreciate that. One of
I
these
very distinctly
days.
hear some like "R" at the end of some of the questions. So I figured that was you.
Yep. The coolest thing
Star
about
Wars.
that panel was someone had come up to me after the panel and said, Alan Three Dick. And that's just for those of you that listened to Sudden but Inevitable podcast with Jesse and I, we had the joke of Alan Three Dick for that entire series of Firefly. And to have someone come up to me after and say that was just, it melted my heart. And it was such a fun experience. And I got to meet a ton of awesome people, including Nick, who is a fantastic artist.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about what you do in the real world.
I do freelance art for, clients or Patreon. I have a Patreon where some few people take pity on me and send me some money every month, and so I can keep doing art. And I just do a lot of in-universe fan art because that's just, that's my jam. I love creating art that could be part of actual fans, even if it is a bit tongue-in-cheek. But I know, I just love doing stuff like that.
That is super cool, man.
Yeah,
Like,
and
just-
it's
That is we had ironically we had a Star Wars convention out here called Legends Con, which was the first time they ever did it. It was an extension for, or was it a convention for the extended universe, the Legends universe, as well as the extended canon universe. So yeah, I had jaded these, and they're like stone marble coasters. I mean, they came out sick.
Those are gorgeous,
they're-
man. Nice
they're really
work.
cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
And anyone who's ever come across the Firefly destination travel posters, which I mean,
Yeah,
this is the man right here.
Nice.
Yeah, very, very good stuff. And I believe I don't know if you can see it on my camera here, but there's a little poster right.
I noticed that. That's so.
There, it's right there. And
that
our boy
Mal?
Nick here made it's Mal and the Mandalorian.
Nice.
So it's two. I know it's hard to see it, but
Yeah.
that was one
We
of
did
the.
a mashup theme for Comic-Con, so
Yeah.
that was kind of because Shauna Tripsick did the costumes for Firefly and is currently doing Ahsoka. People were encouraged to mash those two universes up, so that was
Yep.
my mission, to mash them up.
I like
Hell
it.
yeah. And yeah, if you follow us on TikTok, search Quest Me Podcast on TikTok, you can actually see, and YouTube, you can see some of the videos from that panel. I have some videos. I sneakily took videos from up on stage. And
Unfortunately, Josh, it wasn't sneaky. If you see every other video and picture of that panel, it's you and me are shooting like
just shooting. Oh, I know. It's so
So
funny.
it looks like we're just on our phones and not paying attention. We're like, no,
Just-
we're working.
shameless. It was shameless
It's like
for sure.
ninjas wearing pink. Like you think you're all sneaky, but yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
but I mean, that's a once in a
same with-
lifetime opportunity, man. I'm gonna record the whole thing, you know.
This is the same with folks when they're trying to text and drive, and it's like, no, I'm down here. And Helen
You can't
Keller,
see anything.
Helen Keller could tell that you're texting while driving. Come on, man.
Oh man.
You know,
well,
Steve, I
thank
wanted
you
to
guys.
piggyback on something you were
Oh.
saying about, like, that's for Star Trek. You could always do this for Star Wars and just write Ichuta. And that would be like the perfect sign for Star Wars.
Hmm.
Wait, I missed it.
I'm giving you
like,
ideas.
like Jawas, like
Oh.
you're talking about.
Ichuta, when C-3PO is talking to that one
How
droid in
rude.
Empire, it's like, oh, hello, Ichuta. How rude.
Well, when you meet a fan, sure, in person, it's real easy. But I'm thinking like when you see someone with like a lot of Star Wars stickers on their car, and then you're driving past them, and like you can hope they see your stickers.
Oh, and
Yeah.
then you do the Vulcan. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
But
at the con I was at, I actually had a portrait that I drew of, I think it was Kirk, and I had stormtroopers walk by my booth and give me the eye. I'm like, I'm sorry, they're right now.
I suppose if you see someone while driving and they happen to look at you at the right time, you could do instead of a wave, you can do the force wave, and they should get that. Yeah, why
You gotta do the Kenobi one though with the 2 fingers.
Yeah, exactly. Just
Wait,
like
what
I do every
Okay, I
time I
have to
approach an
ask-
automatic door.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Has anyone wanted to do that to a cop?
You don't need to see my identification.
You don't need to see any identification. I've always wanted to, but I'm like, I'm too chicken shit to do that.
I
There's
mean,
no way I'm gonna do that.
You know, it's a great
you
way to
find
find
the
out what
one
being
cop-
tased feels like.
Or 1 out of 10, you get away with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get the one, but then my luck, I'd get the Star Trek fan, and he'd be like, "Okay, dude, get in the car."
And then you just reach
That
up
was
behind
not
him and
very
go, my
logical,
mind
sir.
to
Get
your
out of
mind.
Oh my goodness, that's
Thank
so
you,
funny.
Steve.
Well, it's great to have you all on tonight. I am extremely excited to talk about this episode. Last week we had Chris, the other half of Sci-Fi Wise Guys, on to talk about episode 4 of Ahsoka. If you haven't checked that one out, definitely check it out. It was a lot of fun having Chris on. We covered a lot of good things there, and a little what was it? A little video was a mashup video was created out of it. So that's another one that's on TikTok for sure. It's pretty funny. But like I said, this week we got Nick, we got Steve, we got Phil here, and I'm just so excited to talk about it. But of course, we can't get into it before we go. To a bar far away. Phil, what are we drinking tonight, sir?
Okay. This one took a little more prep, but was a faster kind of idea than last week's. I'm naming this one after this episode. It's a Shadow Warrior. I found a tutorial a little while back where I found the idea for doing black vodka. It's really simple. It's just, vodka and black gel food coloring. You can use liquid food coloring too. You just got to use a combination of like red and blue and green. But the black gel food coloring in vodka. So this is the Shadow Warrior. It is that black vodka, about 1.5 ounces of that, 1/2 ounce of lime juice, 1/2 ounce of Grand Marnier orange liqueur, and 3 ounces of this Original Sin Black Widow cider.
Ooh.
So this is a blackberry hard cider.
So you've lost me with the vodka up until this point, and now I'm in.
So it actually started as a riff on a Cosmo. But instead of doing cranberry juice, I just topped it with the hard cider. So vodka, orange
And how does it
liqueur,
taste?
lime juice, and blackberry apple cider. It is absolutely amazing. It's lightly carbonated. It's pretty sweet, but has a nice tart kind of kick at the end of it. And you're not going to be able to get this on the camera, but it has, because of the gel food coloring, it gets a light blue tint around kind of the edges of it. And I was like, that's kind of a little hint of like Anakin's lightsaber kind of thing going there. So
Love
One
it.
of them.
yeah, one of them.
I love that. You always have the best drinks, Phil. I don't understand, but like I'm excited that I have an entire list of notes that just have incredible recipes from the last year. Because like, sometimes I go back and I check them out, and then some of them are really, really delicious. Now that fish one that you made, I would never.
I still
Ever
have
drink
some of the
that.
fish gin.
Let's not even tell Nick what that is.
Oh God.
Uh,
He's
So Yeah, but as always, drink responsibly. But so, because I don't think Josh has seen this yet, my bartender notebook, where I record all of my recipes.
That is
So
perfect, and I love it.
I'm keeping
Yeah.
it. I'm keeping it simple tonight. There's no mixture. I just have
Stout
the
edition.
Jameson
Excellent
Stout,
choice.
which I thought is the perfect balance of light side and dark side.
Yeah.
Which
the
is
Caskmate stuff is good.
which is what I'm going to be talking about tonight when we get to that segment.
Nice.
Most excellent. But yeah, you'll be able to find that recipe in the show notes as well. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nick, do you drinking anything over there?
I am. I kept it not quite as simple as Steve, but I'm doing the Kessel, which is just basically
The Kessel rum. I
and
love
a
that.
little bit of Pepsi.
So perfect.
The Kessel rum.
So perfect. Great.
that's good. That's
Does
really
it come
Yeah.
in 12 parsec bottles?
It does.
That's so wonderful. I had one little drink before we started the show, but I went and saw Coheed and Cambria last night and indulged a little too much. So I am not partaking tonight. I'm drinking a Monster
Dude,
because
you
I'm
got to
dead
go see an
tired.
awesome show though.
Dude, it was, man, every time I see Coheed, it's so good. And I got one of the, I don't want to get it out, but I got one of the compilations of, it was the
Nice.
second album. It's the entire graphic novel of all the different comics and stuff. So signed by Claudio, of course, whom I also met at Comic-Con this last year. It was such a surreal moment because he's one of my favorite artists, and I have a very special connection with Coheed and Cambria through a friend of mine that passed away, and to meet him was very surreal, and I started fangirling really hard. It was actually Steve, when you were doing your little Strange New Worlds thing where you sat in the captain's chair, I went and wandered around Comic-Con for a little bit, and that's when I ran into Claudio. That's why when I got back to you, there were tears in my eyes, and I was like,
Right. And I thought you had just seen the Ahsoka Rebels set, and oh wow, he really liked
no.
that.
I mean, I went by that booth every time I was there, multiple times. But no, that particular moment was just, it was a experience of a lifetime. I can't even, yeah. But let's move on to this wonderful episode of Ahsoka. As Phil already mentioned, it was called Shadow Warrior. We don't have really any corrections per se from last week, but I do have the wait, Steve.
There is an actual English alphabet in Star Wars.
Correct.
So
You're
the
Yes.
X-wing does look like an X. You're all good.
Yes, I forgot to bring that.
Oh, you didn't
photo
throw
up.
the link. Hang on.
Let me
It's
see.
okay.
Let me see if I can bring it up real quick. But yeah, Steve actually sent me a picture recently on Twitter. Then he was like, "Crisis averted." It's actually an X or something like that. Where is it?
And of course,
That was it was from Wednesday.
the
Oh,
other
yeah, it
argument
was.
not argument, but the other point was that the B wing does not look like a B. It's just short for blade wing.
Yeah. And it's the
Right.
it's the
But the
it's the
Y
high
wing looks
galactic
like a Y.
alphabet. The high galactic alphabet.
Yes. High Galactic is what basically the English
Is
alphabet
English,
is.
yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Dang, why can't I? Anyway, Steve sent a link. It was great. I'll post it
We'll
up
throw it
again
in
on
the
Twitter
show
something,
notes
yeah.
or whatever. Yeah.
Um,
Sorry, I'm still
but-
getting used to being in this corner. It's really weird.
Yeah, so the only thing that I wanted to bring up was that we like to cover the trailers a lot here, and we like to kind of talk about how much we see from the trailers. We had a discussion with Ro in the Ahsoka preview, and he was saying that he thought that the trailers gave away too much, which I don't think it did, especially considering last week's episode was literally it was the last time we saw anything from the trailers. There was a particular scene in a trailer where Anakin had said something like, "In this war, you'll fight more than droids." I personally think that was a deleted scene cut from this episode, and they had added it in to one of the trailers. But the only thing we haven't seen is Thrawn, the scene of him walking onto the ship, which I'm still pretty convinced it's going to be the last scene of this season. So
I'm actually thinking next episode.
I can
that would
see
be
it.
great. That would be great. We'll get there. We'll get there. But of course, I got to do my synopsis. I do these for Justin every week, so hopefully he listens. This one is not very, very funny or anything, so it's probably a good thing that he's not here because he'll criticize me. But anyway, in the Least Rebels Season 5 episode so far, we get an actual story about Ahsoka and Ahsoka only. Dave Filoni takes us on a full-scale flashback and then shows us full-scale Purgles. Considered by many to be the best Star Wars to come out since Rogue One, this episode really breaks the mold for what we think Star Wars TV is, and I am here for it. I ran a little poll on Twitter asking what everyone thought about this episode and how they were feeling about it. Out of 55 votes, 92% said that they were at an 8 to 10, feeling amazing about it. So people really, really enjoyed this episode, which was directed by Dave Filoni, of course. This whole series has been written by Dave Filoni. This episode clearly had Rosario Dawson. It had Mary Elizabeth Winstead, but it also had a really good few scenes with Evan Whitten, who plays Jason Syndulla. And it introduced Ariana Greenblatt as young Ahsoka. She was formerly in Barbie over the summer, and she was also young Gamora in Guardians. Oh, no.
In
Infinity War.
in Avengers,
All right.
in Infinity War. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
see
she
it.
was absolutely spectacular.
Crushed it. Yep.
Yeah.
And of course, Hayden Christensen was in this episode heavily. And MF, he did such a good job. I just can't, what we are getting from Hayden Christensen lately has been nothing short of gold. And it's been awesome to see his resurgence and to see people respecting him for the role that he's playing and to see the love that he's getting from prequel fans like myself that didn't give a shit about the old series and didn't judge, Hayden Christensen's acting because it wasn't my Darth Vader or anything like that. I loved Hayden Christensen. I loved him in episode 2 and 3, and he was awesome for me. But again, I was younger and I didn't care about the comparisons or anything like that. So
we were the age, we were the target audience when
Exactly.
the prequels dropped. I mean,
and I know, watching things of him just getting berated by old fans and interviews that he had where it just, man, the poor guy has gone through a lot of shit. And Hayden Christensen and Ahmad Best have really had a resurgence in these live action TV series, and I love it. I'm so excited that he's back and that he gave fans another chance because he didn't have to. He did not have to come back and risk getting, torn apart again for playing Darth Vader. And I'm just super excited to have him back. I do want to ask, what is the general consensus here at the beginning? Are they actually in the world between worlds, or is this a little bit different? Steve, you seem to have an automatic opinion here. What are you thinking?
We didn't hear the voices that Ezra heard as he was wandering around, which that's maybe my one little disappointment, because that in that episode you heard
everything.
You heard the past, the future, the present, and I'm like, that would have been cool to hear again. But no, they are definitely there. I think Anakin has been up to. Oh, it's a thorn in my leg. Anakin's been up to things since his demise or his demise / ascension, and I think he being the balance to the Force, which is what I think this episode really tells, is that he has found a way in his ascension to use both the light and the dark side to build a better world. In this case, by training he trained Ahsoka with both sides today.
And I had not even considered the prophecy aspect of his return until you said it just now, Steve. I had not at all dug into the whole thing about Anakin still being the one to bring balance to the Force. potentially now even after his death.
Mm-hmm.
That's
he did it literally.
Genius. Yeah, no, that's
in the series he did it literally by reducing the population of both Sith and Jedi to 2. And like so that was a younger Anakin's mistake, and now he's realizing maybe this is the right way.
yeah.
Nick, what are your
Excellent
thoughts
point.
on this? I know you haven't seen Rebels, so the world between worlds
Right.
probably doesn't mean much to
I
you.
know. I just started watching Clone Wars actually like a week ago in preparation, and I'm like, oh shit, there's a lot. But at least I got enough so when he called her Snips, I totally got the reference. I'm like, I know that. First off, I wanted to piggyback on something you were mentioning about the prequels and why Hayden got so much shit. I think a big part of the problem, and you may hate me for this, but George Lucas is an imaginary, genius, but he is not a good director. And I've read lots of complaints, like from Ewan McGregor, talking about direct them. He would just kind of like just do your thing, and then he was more invested in the CGI and how the thing's going to look. And you look at Sam Jackson, and he's just a big bad motherfucker, and that's just what Mace Windu is. But for a newbie like Hayden Christensen, he needed more guidance, and he didn't get it, and so his performance is so wooden. I mean, you got heavyweights like Natalie Portman and Ewan McGregor that also have pretty wooden performances throughout the entire prequels, and that's because putting his focus on his actors. He was looking at more of the grandiose universe. So it was definitely more crippling to Hayden because of that. And he's gotten a lot of shit for it too.
He didn't direct either, if I recall.
Who?
He did the first one.
George Lucas.
He
did
did
the first one.
Lucas did the first one.
Yeah.
But he directed all 3 of the prequels.
Mm-hmm.
And one could say that in the original trilogy, they got better after, argument that Empire is the best of the 9. And you made
Kirshner.
A lot of people think that. I think that. But it's a different director. And I knew I'd make enemies here. This is great.
No.
Drinking.
This is my Empire. This is my Empire
poster. He's got a Boba Fett poster back there.
That's a great
around.
Lucas in his early days, I think he was more focused on it, but now that he's gotten more into ILM and all of that stuff, he was focused way more on everything else than his actors. From it to both Jake Lloyd and to Hayden Christensen, they both got shit storms of fans hating them, and Ahmed Best too, which the poor guy he got railroaded.
Which is crazy because he basically introduced that version of CGI. Like if we didn't have Ahmed Best, we wouldn't have
gotten. Yeah.
So
it's because of that
kind of crazy.
The way that he portrayed the character. Right. A lot of people were saying was very racial biased, and whether that's true or not, it's not fair to him because he was directed to do that.
And I don't care what anybody says. Jar Jar was one of my favorites when I was 9 years old.
Absolutely.
So I have a Jar Jar Binks Black Series figure in my Amazon cart right now that I'm just kind of waiting to go off of $30 so I can get it. Like I loved those movies, and like you were saying,
like you said, it was towards that age demographic.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm a couple of years older than you guys.
For those actors, you're absolutely right. They were very wooden.
Jar Jar was not my favorite character. Anyway, so
I can see that.
to this episode.
No, I'd like to piggyback off the prequel talk there for a second, because Hayden coming back is an amazing feat here.
It really is.
It takes me to, I don't know if there's any How I Met Your Mother fans in the audience or in the room tonight, but there is one small reference where one character is pushing the limits on how he's trying to get people to disagree with him, but his dad died, and so everyone's being super nice, and so he says, the prequels are the superior Star Wars film, and the everyone in the group they're Star Wars nerds, and so the other two guys look at each other and go, ages well. And this, of course, is 2009 at the earth,
It was
2008,
still
9.
it was like 3 years after episode 3 had come out. Or
Yeah,
something.
and so, but it's
That's
funny that was
funny.
like it was a throwaway joke.
Mhm.
But now, with Dave Filoni and Filoni We Trust,
The Holy Filoni.
has honestly made that true. And so my biggest problem, I only had a problem with Hayden's acting because I feel like they just didn't give him enough to do, even though it was a film, 3 films about him, 2 films about him. And I always had the biggest problem of, no, we can't kill the Sith Lord because it's not right. Well, I guess I'm gonna go kill kids, like in literally the next scene. And I always thought that was a bit like we could have slowed that down a little bit. But
The slippery
also because
slope
of
there was
the
very
lack of
slippery.
yeah, well, we've had the Clone
lack
Wars
of
now. We've
chemistry
had
between him and the lack of chemistry between him and Natalie because of the lack of directing. It was like, what? Like, really?
Yeah.
He's slaughtering kids.
Yeah.
so
You're
now
still
now
with
we
him?
Pretty awful.
now that we've had these I wouldn't call them filler stories. We've had dots connected, and
Yep.
it does
Yeah.
actually make these movies better. And that's another beauty of the Clone Wars is that you can make the argument that the character Anakin was a bit of a whiny little punk in those movies, especially in 2 and 3. And yet, so they didn't say, hey, well, he was a whiny little punk in those movies, so in all of Clone Wars, he has to be a whiny little punk. They said, no, he had 2 bad days, which are those 2 movies, and we can show the fans what he truly
What
was.
he really was. Yep.
And I'm so grateful for that. And therefore, seeing Hayden Christensen back in the role now twice, and showing the Clone Wars Anakin that we all know and love now.
And that's the best part of this episode is seeing those references to the early Clone Wars days, and then seeing Hayden be the badass instead of being that whiny little punk. He was a badass through this whole episode. I mean, his first line, "You look old." That's awesome. Like how that's a Clone Wars joke right there, where they were always ragging on each other, and just to immediately start off with that was incredible. And you can tell that he had direction in this one. You can tell that there was an actual director there that was like, "Hey man,
Yeah.
let's do this. Let's
Giving
do this."
him the chance to actually shine.
Yes.
And that director was
Dave
Dave Filoni.
The Holy Filoni. Yeah. I did like the whole "this isn't what I trained for" kind of thing. That conversation that they had. The whole dialogue with this was incredible. This lesson that Anakin, showed Ahsoka. And
Some
her
of the best dialogue Hayden Christensen's ever gotten.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. and he immediately responds, with, "We used to be keepers of the peace, but now I have to train you to be a warrior so we can win this war," And so I want to go back to what this whole thing is, where they are. I know a lot of people out
So
there.
I think it was kind of like a forced purgatory.
Yes, and
like
that's exactly what
between-
I've been thinking. And here's my biggest thing, because at the end of this whole lesson thing, Ahsoka wakes up not drowning. She's underwater but not drowning. So hear me out. I had a weird thought when I was watching this episode for the 5th time, and it was, how Obi-Wan and Yoda both disappeared and became one with the Force? What if Ahsoka did that as well, but was able to come back? She wasn't fully she didn't fully become one with the Force. She was just like halfway there, and in between, like you said, she was in a purgatory. She's in between life and death. And then when she comes back, she was like, reinstated into the world underwater.
Well, one could argue that,
me,
I mean, if you look at, oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, to me, that's the only way that you can really explain how she was underwater for so long and didn't drown. Even a Jedi would drown being underwater that long. And they didn't see her from
But
the
if you reference Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi, I mean, Leia was in space for a certain amount of time with a space in her safe while she was unconscious. And she was only supposedly force sensitive instead of like force tuned. So someone like Ahsoka could have just like automatically set up like a bubble around her to keep her alive.
And that touche.
I don't know. I
didn't
mean,
even think about that, and I didn't even think about the fact that in the Thrawn trilogy, Luke was trapped in space for a couple days and had to shorten his oxygen intake to make sure that he survived. So it's very, very possible that she is just there and in a dream state. That was my other thought, was that she's just, a lot of people online were like, she's in the world between worlds. We're going to see the father, the sister, and the brother, and we're going to see all these cool things from Clone Wars and Rebels. And I'm like, no, dude, she's having a near-death experience. And Anakin is coming to her
I
as a
love
Force
your
ghost.
idea of Anakin being like, continuing on his legacy, but I only saw it as he was her guide. He was her
Yep.
master, and he was guiding her to her final lesson of not only, live or die, because that's really, you want to give up, you just stop breathing, or live and fight another day, but also the balance of hate and love, good and evil. It's in all of us. And you saw both of those during all of those montages, from, fighting her to then fighting her later with the, the hate in his eyes and the red lightsaber, and then him just closing his eyes, coming back as Anakin and saying, there's hope for you yet. And I always just thought that was like, you're her guide, you're her master, you make the right decision, keep fighting for what you believe in, keep doing what you need to do.
I saw a really cool theory about this being her master trials. Like, this was her, she never took the master trials before, and this was her trials. And the lesson that Anakin was teaching her was one of his final lessons that he learned from his son, which is you don't have to kill in order to win. Notice Ahsoka makes a complete Return of the Jedi reference when she turns the lightsaber off and tosses the lightsaber aside and says, I choose to live. That was absolutely what Luke did to Vader. He had the killing blow. He was above him. He had the high ground, but he chose life, and he chose to throw his lightsaber away. So I think that in a way,
although that was
also her
Anakin's
master
lightsaber.
trials. Right.
But the blade she had with the killing blow, she tossed it away.
Right. And so I think that it was a lot to do with her master trials, and that's why she came out as Ahsoka the White, and now she's, a Jedi Master. Would you guys?
Is that something we've seen in live action?
Well,
seen
no.
Master Trials?
Yeah, it was called Lord of the
or
Rings.
even Clone Wars. Like, have we seen the actual Master Trials?
Not in live action. We saw it in Jedi Fallen Order.
All right.
There was some Master Trials in there, and I think some other video games have had Master Trials, but
because I remember we had
Anakin never was granted the rank of Master.
No, not really.
Well, his trial was to defeat Palpatine, but clearly that didn't.
How'd that work out for him?
Well, 20 years later he did it, but like it took a little
Somehow
while.
Palpatine returned.
Oh, jeez.
Back another 20 years later, and
Whoops.
Yeah.
Hey, he's still trying.
There was.
I'm glad you brought up the video game, because, as soon as the tomb that she was in the very beginning, like, I'm like, oh my God, that's the Zepho. Like, going back to, and then they were like, oh, it's, the Night Sisters, the Dathomir. I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah. But wasn't that the Zepho too? And then they mentioned it in, was it like the third episode? She said it's from a faraway galaxy that built these. I'm like, yeah, again, the Zepho. Like, it looked like even the map ball thing looked like those giant map balls in the game. I'm like, why don't you just say the name? Just make it canon, please. I mean, I know that they say that the game is canon, but like live action canon. Like, I was getting all excited, and then they didn't drop the name. I'm like,
makes me wonder if someone else actually owns the rights to things they created, like for EA or something like that.
Oh, no.
Like, who knows?
That's all.
No,
that's all
because
free reign. Lucas
Yeah.
Games or whatever is still like involved in that, and so it's all free game for Disney to use.
Well, now I know that.
Especially since they have the replica of his lightsaber at Disneyland that you can buy.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I
it's got to be
Disney.
canon
Disney
that way.
has the rights, but I feel like were the games under a different umbrella? Like, aren't they like EA? Not EA.
Disney
games.
owns everything.
Okay, Disney owns everything.
Disney owns all the things.
Oh yes.
Disney owns
So-
the map behind you, Phil.
Well, that's like
Technically not, because this isn't actually like a licensed.
It's not a Pirates.
It's not a Pirates of the Caribbean thing.
You tell them that.
Somebody listening is like, we need to acquire. Someone told something. We need to acquire this map.
Yeah, you're gonna get an offer in the next couple minutes. But there were so many references. Speaking of Return of the Jedi and that references and the video games, I mean, when Ahsoka wakes up and she goes and listens for Sabine's echo, that is straight from Jedi Fallen Order. And how cool is it that
Yeah, I was so cool,
dude. And they've referenced everything now. At this point, everything except for maybe Solo, Andor, and Rogue One have been referenced in some one way or the other. And that's just been, it's been an amazing Easter egg hunt for fans like me. That's like, oh, they did the thing. Like when Anakin turns around and ignites his lightsaber, it's the exact same scene from Episode 3 when he says, "If you're not with me, you're against me," and ignites his lightsaber. Like it's the exact same scene, but with Ahsoka instead of Obi-Wan.
We got Genevieve O'Reilly back as Mon Mothma.
Yeah, that was cool.
I'm
really excited seeing her character's progression.
She's so good.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then she's
Ahsoka.
she's playing in two different worlds as well.
Yeah.
She's still in Andor. She's still in this.
Yeah, she's getting to play with two different timelines right now, and that's got to be fun for her.
All for one little cameo.
Yeah.
One of her dialogueless cameo in Episode
Right?
3. And no, she had a scene. There was the cut scene where they with Padme and Senator Organa, they were like
Bail.
Bail.
that's
they
right,
were
that's
making something. So that was cut. But you see her at the end, and then from there, she's done
Just,
all this work. I love it.
Yeah,
Not too
she's
shabby.
spectacular.
Yeah, and then just to finish up the references thing, we had Ahsoka say, "I won't fight you" to Anakin, which is a straight callback to Rebels
I've heard
when
that before.
she's fighting. Yeah, and then Anakin says, "I've heard that before," and that again just pulls on my
and-
Rebels heartstrings because I'm like, "Oh my God, they did it again!" Then we had Rex, and yeah, I mean, they just keep them coming, man. They keep those references coming. Justin here says,
and live action Siege of Mandalore.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I didn't even bring that up either. Shit, yeah.
Josh, one quick thing.
Yeah.
The other place that Anakin has heard that before is Luke.
Yeah, I was thinking
True.
the same
I
thing.
will
very
not
true.
fight you.
That's true.
Yeah. So
So it could be a reference to
Shall
both of those,
die.
depending
Yeah.
on what kind of fan
Right.
you are. If you're more of a fan of the originals, then there's a reference for you. How fucking brilliant! Sorry to swear, but how brilliant is that? Dave Filoni.
well, I mean, a lot of
is a
Star
goddamn
Wars has
genius.
thrived on repetition of bits of dialogue and just that kind of echoing of the themes throughout the whole series.
yeah.
Great.
So
Justin says we need Hondo.
Of
I
course,
agree. We'll get him eventually. though.
I
He'll show
bring
up.
Jim Cummings back. Let him actually
Oh, yeah.
play Hondo in live action.
Put the
That'd
makeup
be
on
great.
Jim. That'd be great.
Even
That'd
if
be
we
amazing.
don't, if we start making movies that are relatively Skywalker-less, which is,
Mhm.
I think, the goal, even with those little lines of dialogue, that's evidence of writers being fans. There's also evidence of just the Force does connect everyone and bind all living things because there's themes out there in the galaxy, and it's a big galaxy, and I think we need to. I'm glad we're seeing so much more of it, but that is like those fibers that connect it are evidence of the Force at work, even if it's just writers going like, "Hey, that was cool. I want that in my show." So,
Yeah, agreed.
how do you feel that we have not seen Tatooine in this series? Because I'm
Amazing.
for it. Yeah, I did not expect an opening scene of that cherry blossom forest again.
Yeah.
I thought we were going right into the world, and just like that slow pan over the aftermath of the battle. I'm like,
That
God, I
was
love
nice.
what planet is that? I'm going
the
to it.
way they've been utilizing Cetos as a new location is really good.
I mean, they built it and they paid for it, so they're
Yeah.
going to use it as much as they can.
And it's just fun to see Hu Yang kind of wandering around in all of those sets and
Hu
just
Yang,
And
dude.
he has such emotion.
You know,
Such an emotional range.
by the
for a
way,
droid.
I did not know that was David Tennant doing
Oh,
the
yeah.
voice until like the third episode, and I was like, why has nobody hired him to do a voiceover for a droid before it? He is amazing.
It's
because-
funny. You should ask that.
well, because
Have.
they had. He
Yeah,
was
he was-
in Clone Wars.
He's the
Oh, was
original
he?
voice of
Yep.
Hu Yang in the
Yeah.
Clone Wars. So
You'll
they
get
brought-
that.
that's
There's a
brought it back.
really,
Yeah.
there's a really cool episode with Hu Yang
Yeah.
in it and Young Jedi and him like helping them. Yeah, you'll get there. I don't
And
want to spoil it,
he's
but-
been doing a bunch of
Okay.
other voiceover work over the years.
DuckTales, I
He's
believe.
DuckTales, yeah.
yeah.
DuckTales, random bits in the like How to Train Your Dragon
That's
spin-off
right.
TV shows. Not
Yep.
like the major movies, but like in the TV shows. He's just kind of there.
I know.
But
I
he's
demand,
Yeah.
he brings so much gravitas.
I demand from
to-
Disney
to
a
Hu
Michael
Yang.
Sheen droid at some point, and they need to interact.
That would be awesome.
I demand
Yes. Yes.
Dude. And yeah, Hu Yang was. We talk a lot about Hu Yang in our segments.
Yeah.
Because a couple of us have some of those. But he's. The more I see of him in the series, the more I just love that character. He's becoming one
Yeah.
of my all-time favorite droids.
Yeah, no, he's right up there. I cannot wait to see Tujik come back as K2
Yes.
whenever we get the next season of Andor. But
Oh, I guess
In
we
the
gotta have that
meantime-
arc of him
actually
Finding-
meeting.
programming that droid. Yeah,
Mhm.
Yep.
I didn't even think about that.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's
And-
probably going to be a big chunk of season 2.
Yeah, hopefully. We still support the writers' strike, so however long it takes to get those guys paid, we will wait for our favorite shows to come back, because I would much rather them get paid than
Right.
see Andor with shitty AI writers.
Yup.
Those links also, there is support links in our show notes all season this season if you want to support the writers' strike.
That's awesome.
We are, as podcasters, we are still allowed to talk about our favorite shows like we are with Ahsoka, but we definitely still support everything that they're doing. So,
Union
anyway.
solidarity, y'all.
yes.
Yeah.
The last thing I wanted to kind of bring up with this whole opening, and it's, I guess there's a lot of things going on in the opening, but
God, we're
the
still
whole
in
world
the-
between worlds and the trials thing. What did you guys? What did you guys think of Ariana Greenblatt's as young Ahsoka?
She was
What's up?
incredible. She absolutely killed it. It really highlighted just how young Ahsoka was when she was thrown into this war. Like,
Yeah.
Anakin wasn't that old either, but it definitely highlights how young Ahsoka was.
Because I think she was like 14 or 15
Yeah,
when she was taken on as a
Yeah.
Padawan. So
yeah.
were you guys disappointed about Ashley Eckstein not making it in?
Mildly, but
We
not.
got 3 more episodes, right?
I would love to see kind of acknowledgement of more of the voice actors who were some of these characters. Ashley Eckstein as the original voice of Ahsoka, and D. Bradley Baker's work as Rex, and literally every other clone throughout Clone Wars and Rebels. But I love that we're still getting Tamara Morrison back now as Boba, and now as the older clones. And I really, Ariana Greenblatt's role as basically a young version of Rosario Dawson was stellar.
That's perfect.
I would
agree.
I would have loved to have seen Ashley in tonight's episode, but not tonight's.
This week's.
But this week's episode, but the age would have been a little wrong. I don't know how much younger she actually is than Rosario.
like
but
3 years.
Yeah, okay.
They're like 41 and 44.
So it really would have been a nice homage, but
You might as well have
I
just had
believe-
Grandma Ahsoka walking with her cane at that point. I mean,
yeah.
not to say
I
that
think-
Ashley's old, is more of just like,
Now,
if you're gonna have
She's
that
not
kind of
14.
an age disparity, why not
We
go all the
could've-
way?
we could have thrown her voice in if they'd
Mm.
done the voices in the World Between Worlds. We could have had some Ashley Eckstein lines in there, which would have been cool.
And
Or-
she
but-
was
or they-
in Rise of
They could have done what
Skywalker.
I don't know if you guys ever saw
that-
The Last of Us, the live action version of that. How
Wonderful.
they brought in some of all the voice act alternate characters.
Yeah,
That would have been cool if they did that in this.
well, and
And they still might.
they've done some similar stuff. I mean, we got some of the voice actors returning to play the live action characters. We haven't seen him yet, but we got Thrawn coming back. So
Yeah, I felt the same way about the original voice actress for Sabine, because I love her, but of course she doesn't really look like the character. So I'd like to see her as another Mandalorian, though.
yeah,
Like, I don't see why we couldn't do that. She's a striking
Right.
woman, and I think she's a phenomenal
Yes.
actress. And so hopefully she's one of the ones that takes her helmet off. But to have her on the show would be great. But yeah,
I could see Ashley getting kind of a bone thrown to her and her being like a bartender or something.
or
Like,
even if we get a flashback to like the Rebels era,
Mhm.
like she could they could make her up to do that and be just
Yeah.
a little
they kind. I mean,
younger
I guess
looking,
they-
but just different looking. Like she could be
Yeah.
that if they need to.
I think they would just de-age Rosario at that point, though.
yeah.
You know, there's no.
Or
reason
it would be
to-
the voice. Like her voice has changed over the years, and therefore
Oh.
she
yeah,
would
I
sound
can see
like
that.
herself from that era.
I think
Or
at
they
this point,
they could have
though-
done what they did with Hayden in Obi-Wan, where his voice was mixed with Edward.
Yeah,
James' voice.
the
They could have mixed
blending.
them together.
Yeah.
yeah.
There's options, but I also don't blame them if they don't want to go that extra step right now.
Right.
Maybe Ashley didn't
And-
want to do it. We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, who knows?
I think she
I'm
wants
sure
to do it.
I think she really
Yeah.
wanted to do it. But I mean, at this point, like, it's kind of too far gone. Like, Ashley was wonderful in Clone Wars. She was wonderful in Rebels. She did a great job. But I think for this particular character, they're looking for a certain style, like a certain
Yeah.
build, and she just didn't really
Yeah.
make that cut. So, and that's fine because she portrayed Ahsoka so well in Clone Wars and Rebels, and she's doing so much beautiful work off of Star Wars as well with her clothing line and everything, and her,
All the her universe stuff. It's
exactly, like she's still in Star Wars. She might not be voicing or acting for Star Wars, but she's still in it and she still loves it. So again, she did wonderful and great things for that character. But for live action, it's just I think Rosario was a good choice, and I think Ariana Greenblatt was another really good choice to
Yeah.
portray those characters. So I just
Yeah,
kind of
no,
wanted to give
I
you guys
can't
thoughts on
be-
that, but- oh, okay.
I can't be upset
It's like
about
we
the
have 5
casting
people
there.
after all.
She's been biting my ankles trying to get attention. So
That's so
Oh,
funny. I had to
This
kick
is-
my
this-
cat out.
this is Kaylee.
hi, Kaylee.
Of course, it's Kaylee.
Hey, Kaylee.
And now
That's
I'm bothering
funny.
her. So she's
That's so funny. So
ooh.
before we move on anywhere to the next stuff, did you guys have anything else you wanted to talk about when it comes to I'm going to call them the Master Trials and that whole opening thing?
I did expect when the last scene we got with Miss Greenblatt that on the Siege of Mandalore, when Anakin walked in and said, "I don't recognize this battle," and then she explains
Oh.
it. I was expecting, or I had a flutter of hope. It was like, "Oh, Maul," and then,
Oh,
and then even Anakin would be like, "Hey."
That would
Who
be
are
cool.
you?
I know that
and
guy.
This episode had some really fun lore dump. So there's a lot of people that have always been like, since the show was starting, they're like, oh, are we going to be able to even understand it if we haven't watched the cartoons? And this episode proves that yes, they can
Cool.
do it and they can do it well.
Let's ask Nick about that. Actually, Nick.
Yeah, and
how-
that's
Yeah,
was
we do
kind of where I was
Absolutely.
going. Is does what they did make sense to you? Do you like feel like since you haven't watched Clone Wars and Rebels, do you feel like you are up to speed now?
I believe so. I mean, there's a lot of details that I don't know. I mean, I know stuff on Mandalorian, but it was enough that I could watch and go, okay, she was there, I get it. All right, he wasn't, I get that. Moving forward, so
Mhm.
yeah,
I was
I
actually
could
talking
follow
with-
along even if I. What's that?
I was talking with my buddy Justin after I watched this, and I said, I know there are people watching Ahsoka who have not watched Rebels and Clone Wars, and I said, imagine being so blissfully ignorant that you were looking at these space whales and you didn't know what they were about to do, and then they did it, and you were just like, ah! And then, of course, even as someone who knows exactly what they were going to do, I'm like,
It was still
still really fucking cool.
Yeah, man.
I expected that to go to black so many times, and they just kept coming back for more.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, this is a longer episode. And I thought, honestly, once she was dragged onto the ship, it was going to cut to black, and we'd see it next episode. But there were
wait,
three
there's more.
black cuts.
I
And so
also
imagine
thought
anyone who hadn't watched Rebels is like, oh, it's still going. But we're noticing the beats, and like the beats are still coming.
yeah. I thought when Ahsoka said, "I'll find a way to find them," and the camera pans up and she's looking up, I thought that was going to be the end of the episode.
That
I
was
like,
it?
"Oh, here we go, fade to black." and then Mom Mothma pops up, and I'm like, "Oh, it's still going." So,
I thought they would even skip the whole Purgle detail. Even, like if it was next week, I thought it'd be like, I'll look for a way to find them. She looks up at the Purgles, and then we know. And then I thought next week would just be Purgle warp like into the new thing. Like, oh, cool.
I like that we got to actually see that whole procedure. That was really cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
And them doing the whole Jonah and the whale thing, and basically getting eaten by a whale, and then seeing the white light through the teeth as they're jumping. Just all of that was so incredible. I loved the
I can
they're all
totally
coming
see
out.
a whole Pinocchio Star Wars mashup now. Like Monstro, the space
I
whale.
always
Don't give Disney more ideas.
Oh man.
Does anyone else forget that's a whole part of like Pinocchio, like the whale? Like whenever I think of Pinocchio, I always forget. Like, oh yeah, there's a big whale in that thing.
Yeah.
And it was
It's like the whole second half.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I call it the third act because the second act is the
Donkey.
theme.
Turn
Oh,
into-
Stromboli and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I always forget it doesn't end with that. Whole thing. I haven't seen Pinocchio in a dog's age, so
The live action Pinocchio was actually pretty good with Tom Hanks in it.
Guillermo del
I
I heard
Toro.
about that.
No, the
directed
one with
one,
Tom
or-
Hanks.
That one I heard was amazing.
Because we got like 3 different live action Pinocchio
In a
movies in
year.
the span of like 6 months. So it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the Home Improvement Kid one where he's like the wooden puppet.
Oh god. The
Oh my
Taylor
god.
Thomas.
like 1997, whenever that
Now
was.
you're showing your age.
God.
Holy shit, I forgot about that.
Mhm.
You remember the horror movie about Pinocchio?
No,
There was like a whole set of horror movies where Pinocchio just killed people.
God, that was 96. I was close. I said 97. I was
Wow.
close.
Wow, that's awesome.
Now it's on to Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, they're doing a second
Bloody.
one of those.
Are they
The
darn?
Blood and Honey ones.
Blood
They're
and
doing a
Honey.
second
Blood and
one. They're doing a second one, and Tigger is involved.
Yes,
Oh my
that's
God.
so funny.
It's ridiculous.
So let's talk about Jason a little bit,
Yeah.
because Jason in this episode had way more fun scenes than I thought he would have in this whole series.
I was not expecting him to be on camera for more
As much.
time than he was in
Mhm.
his first appearance. I wasn't expecting to see him show up to the length that he does in this episode, and I loved it.
when they cut from the world within worlds, world between worlds, and they went back to there, I'm like, oh, really? We're doing stuff back here? Okay. But then Jason started doing stuff. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
All right.
and then it clicked,
There has to be a reason. I mean, I thought the
and
beginning was
we got the Kanan name drop.
hmm
Yes,
Yes, we did.
and we also got the Force theme,
Mhm.
which is the first time that we've heard the Force theme in any of the live-action Star Wars. I believe there might have been a little hint of it with Grogu in Mandalorian.
I thought there
but-
was a little bit in Mandalorian.
Oh, they may have
but-
had it in Obi-Wan. In
Well,
Obi-Wan, I
Obi-Wan,
don't
of
remember.
course, but as far as like the Mando verse, I
Yeah,
think this is
yeah.
like the
This
first
in this
full-fledged-
timeline, in this time period.
I think
Yeah,
Grogu had some Force theme.
he had
Yeah.
to have.
He-
And it was light,
But still,
I,
It's
pretty
still
sure.
fun to see it show up again.
Maybe when he was
and
training. with Luke.
and full fledged too. 'Cause
Yeah.
this is like that whole scene of them standing near the water, and this is actually my second Sarlacc killer scene when they're actually standing there and using the Force. Like Hera actually kind of tuned into the Force a little bit. I feel like that's kind of proving your theory, Phil, of everyone has a bit of Force power, but not everyone can harness it like a Jedi can.
And of course, she grew a Force sensitive being
inside her. Yeah, she carried a Jedi's child. So,
and if not even that, she simply listened to her child, which is something that a parent
should do.
So,
or maybe that is something a Jedi can do, is like project what he hears to her, so she can hear it too.
Especially a child who doesn't really have
a lot of mastery yet.
Yeah, control. Like he's like, I'm feeling this. You like, and he says, listen. He doesn't know that he's projecting it to her, but there she picked it up. Like, oh, okay,
right.
No problem with like, oh, they're changing the lore. Here we go again. Shut up. Just enjoy the show.
No, and there was no lore changing here at all.
I guarantee someone on the internet is
I've seen it, and the people that have said that.
Well,
I should have brought back Toxic Tweet of the Week. I really should have. Because the amount of toxicity for this show alone, and this has been one of the best freaking shows that we've had. Like, and people are still.
You should rename that, like because fans. Now Twitter has changed their name. You putting the X in toxicity.
I like it. Sold.
You can have that one for free.
I'm writing that down in my notes.
Nick, you wouldn't have any part of the WAG, are you? You can't be one.
No, I'm not yet. After this, I might have to look into it.
Writing better Star Wars.
Do you guys think Jason will? Do you guys think Jason will be an apprentice by the end of the Mandoverse to someone?
Yes.
Possibly, yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
I think
who's going to take him under his wing? Under their wing?
I don't think she's leaving us just yet.
Okay.
Maybe it'll be Sabine.
He and Grogu are going to go off to Jedi Academy together, and they're going to be best friends because both of their parents are green.
Didn't they close that at Disneyland?
Well, no,
they put in like a garden or something. So
I'm pretty sure that no one that we love is allowed to go to the Jedi Academy because we all know what happened to Luke's Jedi Academy.
Yes, but that is still
kind of like Fight Club. We just don't talk about Fight Club.
That's still far enough. That's still far enough ahead.
Okay.
That's still far enough ahead that these guys, these people can go through and train and go off and do their own thing, and not have been caught up in everything with Kylo Ren. Okay. There's still plenty of time.
That makes sense.
And that's another beauty of what I think Dave Filoni is doing, because there've been talks of, we've all heard it, of they're gonna World Between Worlds at retcon and destroy this and erase the sequel trilogy. No, I don't like that. I don't think they're gonna do that. I think you're just gonna do what Filoni does best and
connect the dots.
Those threads.
Work with it, work around it if he has to, and like Kylo is still going to kill all those poor students, yes, but there are going to be other students that are still out there. Maybe, of course, like I imagine Grogu was still alive,
and more people survived Order 66 than we ever thought back in 2002. Well, 2005, excuse me. More people survived Order 66 than we ever thought at the time. The number of Jedi who secretly have been, living in hiding throughout, the whole rise of the Empire. I mean, the Inquisitors exist for a reason. There's a lot of Jedi for them to hunt down. So,
otherwise,
I think that's. I mean, the video games with them being canon.
Yeah,
they're due. With him finding all the Force-sensitive kids out there to keep them safe and then train eventually. Mm-hmm. So, and that takes place, it's between 6 and 7, the movies?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because it's, oh no, it would be taking place between 3 and 4, because he's, there was the Order 66, and then he escaped that. But still, who knows if he's still alive somewhere training, so.
Could be. It's just there's so much room for us to have stories that are interwoven with the sequels, but also not affected by them. That we don't need to be like that. They were misfires, and we should own it and not do it again.
Yeah.
Right.
Learn
and that's
from
what
mistakes.
Learn from these mistakes. Don't try to ignore them and pretend they never happened. Don't retcon everything.
Right. And they
Just-
tried to do that with Rise of Skywalker, and it flopped massively. Like, what a terrible story that was to try and retcon, new Last Jedi. And they did the right thing by bringing in Filoni and being like, dude, can you just help us make this make sense? And he's doing a magnificent job, and he's doing it in ways that I don't think any of us ever really expected. The Mandalorian was a throwaway character. That was an experiment, and now look at there's a Mandoverse, and we're gonna get a movie with all of those characters in it, and it's all Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, and that's just, Jon Favreau was there to help him do an Avengers-style build-up, and now Dave Filoni is taking the reins, as you can see with Ahsoka, and he is absolutely crushing it. The one thing that I did want to bring up about this series, or this episode in particular, was the special effects. Did you guys notice some of the misfires of the special effects in this episode as much as I did?
I don't think any of us have watched it as many times as you have.
Fair.
Yeah, I only saw it once.
Maybe combined across the three of us, we've watched it as many times as you have. But
I
guess
doubt it. You said you saw it like 5 times, 6 times.
We're all blow.
It was a couple times. But the Purgles,
I don't have that many fingers times.
I know the lighting has a lot to do with some of this stuff, but the Purgles, for instance, was just kind of a little like
when they were still in atmosphere, or when they were
when they were still in atmosphere.
Okay,
they were still on the planet, basically.
Yeah.
They just you could
very
much tell that they were, computer generated, and you could tell that Ahsoka was staring at a screen in a couple of those scenes.
The big problem with the Purgles is that they are SAG, so like.
I didn't see that. That's great.
Oh man,
Oh my
that
God,
was awesome.
One other thing,
They couldn't show up.
They couldn't get him back. They couldn't get him back for pickups.
There was one other scene that kind of threw me for a loop. Pay attention to this clip here, and pay attention to Anakin's upper lip, because this really, really throws me off. Watch.
Is it?
Did you see that?
And I think, again, like you said, I think that might have just been more of a lighting issue.
Okay. You kind of see his lip shift a little bit, and it's definitely the de-aging thing, of course. But it was kind of like, oh, what?
I think they shouldn't have bothered with the de-aging. He doesn't look much older.
No, he doesn't.
Like,
He doesn't at all.
I think you should let him be older Anakin in the world between worlds.
Although it did make sense for him to be what Ahsoka last saw.
Yes.
If it's her purgatory and she's actually going through a trial and like hallucinating, then the last way that she saw Anakin was with that scar.
They should have taken a hint from probably the one good scene in Picard season 2 was when Q was there young for just a hot second, and they're like, oh, right.
Oh, hang on.
Yeah.
And boom, then, old Q.
Or maybe just not give Hayden Christensen some hot tamales before he has that scene, and then he doesn't have any like lip action,
Oh my God.
I would have
just a directing problem.
I would have finally loved to see Anakin in like the white robes, or at least the gray robes.
I think there's still a chance we'll see it.
Yeah, I hope so too.
I mean, honestly, if you're getting Hayden Christensen, if you've convinced him to come back for this many different things, you keep him around. You run with that. You do as much Darth Vader shit as you can.
Series, though.
No, but maybe in a second season.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we might
maybe, or a different series altogether.
Yeah,
I'm still pretty convinced that this is before Book of Boba Fett. That this is set before Book of Boba Fett, and that Anakin will tell Ahsoka that he has a son that she can ask for help from.
I've been listening to you say that on the episodes, and I do disagree.
Okay.
And that is because during the time of Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka is still refusing to train Grogu. And I think after her master trials that she just went through,
she would be more willing to do so.
She'd be willing to do so.
Unless
so
she was in the middle of a mission, i.e. finding Thrawn.
I don't know.
Wait a minute.
I think that the attitude...
That episode we saw of Ahsoka, was it in Book of Boba Fett or Mandalorian?
Both.
Both. Mando season 2 and Book of Boba Fett.
And I'm thinking that this series is set after Mando season 2, but before Book of Boba Fett. I'm pretty convinced that Ahsoka is on with Luke because Anakin told her to go there, because she probably asked him for help. Like, dude, like maybe she gets just wrecked at the end of this series, and maybe
and we know we have a time skip between Mando season 2 and Book of Boba Fett.
Right, and it's a couple years, so it's very possible that this series is taking place in those couple years, and that she'll be going to Luke to ask him for some sort of help, and that's why she's there.
Josh, you're a beautiful human being, and then every time you've been wrong, you admit it graciously, and I hope you continue to do so.
I'm always wrong, and I'm totally cool with that. But
throwing the shade in Shadow Warrior here. Wouldn't have the Star Wars website have actually?
They do when the series and things complete. Like once it's all out and in the open, they'll add that.
Then
stuff
they'll
to
clarify
the
timeline and things. Yeah,
it is true at the moment.
So they'll make you guess until they finish it, and then they're like, "All right, we're done making you think about it. Here's the answers."
Yeah, it's just like Maroc.
I was watching an earlier episode of you guys, and the whole Maroc thing. I'm like, I had the same thought, and then I saw it, and I'm like, oh, well, I guess I was wrong.
I wanted to believe you on that one, especially your theory about the wolf and the Arthurian legend, and he's wearing that Arthurian helmet. I'm like, okay, yeah, like they've done their research, they're laying this out for us, and then he became dust without his helmet falling off.
I was
first.
like, okay, cool. Are they doing a Tron Legacy thing here? I mean, that'd be okay. Good. I was actually kind of glad they didn't. I'm like, is this Tron? Really? You guys are gonna do? Okay,
so
good.
Funny.
Yeah, right. No, that's a fun connection that I had not drawn, Nick. That's.
I was thinking the same thing.
Tron Legacy was that came when that CGI came out. It was so bad. I actually was like, who's the actor playing the younger Jeff Bridges? And they're like,
it's Jeff Bridges.
Bridges. No, it's not. No, they de-aged him.
Yep.
Why?
I thought it was a different person altogether. And then of course you look at
Jeffrey. Jeffrey Bridges.
So I got two things here before we hit segments. One thing is the New Republic sucks.
That's actually my gripe. But I'll get to that.
They are trying so hard to distinguish themselves from the Empire.
The Empire, yeah.
That they are useless.
They're shooting themselves in the foot, man.
You have to be rebelling against
something.
It
clearly doesn't last. I mean, it clearly doesn't last because we have the Imperial Remnant. We have all of the New Order, First Order.
Yeah, no, I First Order.
New First Order.
Yeah.
And I think the First Order comes out of this series. Like, this is how we're going to learn how the First Order rises.
Well, because they're growing right underneath the New Republic's nose because they're too inept to do shit.
Exactly. And they don't want to believe things. Like, I mean, right now, it's, they see all these Purgles, and Carson explains why they're using the Purgles, and I guarantee the New Republic is still going to be like, nah, Hera, we're stripping you of your rank.
Now that captain, though, I appreciated that for a minute. She's like, "No, this is my job." Like then she was kind of doing the New Republic, but then she saw the like, move,
evasive action,
and then they watch them go into warp.
Yeah.
Well, also, you can think of the populace. the populace is so used to being governed by fear that they're not used to it not being. So this kind of like, oh yeah, you
The
guys
gentle
can take over,
hand.
sure.
The gentle
But
hand.
where's when does the shoe drop? Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna stick with the enemy I know that. Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's a pipe dream, and they'll make me rich. You will make me nothing. So,
Josh, is your second thing about the New Republic?
No, but I go
Okay.
on with your gripe. What did you want to say about
my gripe is that it's like they forgot for an episode how to write Carson Teva, because we know we were pretty much introduced to him as the guy who's like able to not bend the rules, but he knows which rules to follow. And that, for instance, like, let's let him off with a warning. I don't want to fill out paperwork. I've been through this before. And this episode, I wouldn't say he was being a bitch.
No, but he was definitely a little more high strung than we've ever seen him.
Yeah, and
he was also underneath he was a general was there telling him what to do. All the other scenes, he's off on his own. He's not answering to really anybody. He's like, oh well.
And there's proof that he's not necessarily following orders.
I expected the reactions that he was giving from
here's
one of the
a
other
general telling him what to do.
Yeah. Well, one of the other two pilots should have been like, "Are we still? They're coming. Are we sticking around for this?" And Carson Teva should have been like, "Trust the general. We've been through this before." And then the other one should have been even one of the other pilots should have been one to like actually call the New Republic and say, "Hey, like, I don't want to get in trouble. This is where we are. Come stop this general from going rogue." And even then, Carson Teva should be like, "You're an idiot." Instead, he was playing. They shoehorned him into that role, and I didn't care for it.
They did kind of make him.
I disagree with
much more of the straight man. But go ahead, Nick.
We've seen Carson. Yeah. He hasn't been on the watchful eye of the New Republic. He's been kind of like, I'm just doing my own thing. I'm off world here. I can't do this, but here's the information you want, because really I can't do anything. But here, But now he's on this. He's on this mission that is unsanctioned. They told them don't go, and they went anyway. So he's now under this general that's gone rogue, and he's like, "Oh shit, I could lose my." So like, yeah, if I did this, I'd lose my job. So here.
So here's a timeline question though. Here's a timeline question though. When we saw him in Mando season 3, if that is set after this, that could explain some of the different reactions as well.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, but he says in this one, he says whatever planet that was. What planet was he on? Alpha something.
Adelphi.
Yeah. He says I'm from the Adelphi base.
Yes, and he's been stationed there probably for a while.
Because he's stationed out in the Outer Rim, and that's basically in the Outer Rim. So but the reason Carson is here, because he's our connection to Zeb.
Yeah. He is the link between Hera and the rest of the crew we've seen so far in Ahsoka, and Zeb, who we got that amazing cameo in Mando's 3.
They probably didn't mention him because they hadn't written the character yet, but I guarantee you he was one of the younger pilots in Phoenix Squadron.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, no, that would absolutely track that Carson has known Zeb for that long, that he's been.
That's what led me to my point about why he's playing, like he kind of switches personalities. Like, he's been through this before. It's like anyone who ever questioned Jack Bauer. It's like, dude, have you not seen the first 8 seasons? Like, anyone who questions, the guy, like the character that is commonly always
right. You just threw down a Jack Bauer. All right. You gotta pass for me.
Everyone's always. They even went.
Jack Bauer.
They even went meta with it in the second to last season when they're like, well, how do I know you can do this? With all due respect, Madam President, ask around. Like, I've had 7 bad days from then to now
over the years.
I got this. There's always somebody who's like, no, I don't think you can do it. So the fact that he was playing that role instead of you expected from
Was
the
it like
younger
9
pilot that he was
seasons of
with.
Hold My Beer?
Yeah, the younger pilot who he was with when Mando was flying around.
Yep.
That's the character I expected to be doing this. Like,
The-
hey, I don't want to lose my brand
commission,
new commission. And Carson was like, you're going to lose your commission a couple times in this war. Like, I've lost it, I got it back because the Republic is an idiot.
I do like that there could be a connection between him and being in Phoenix Squadron, because that would make a lot of sense that he'd be here with Hera to stop Thrawn.
Yeah,
because if he's also seen Thrawn and knows what he's capable of, then he would absolutely be on board with trying to stop him. And it would make more sense for him to be a bit of a rebel than normal, because he's like, oh shit, man, this is a really big deal. So, and
my follow-up theory is that if you look at the other two pilots, I don't think any of them had any actual dialogue, which means they probably weren't getting paid.
Just
so they said, hey, Carson, sorry, I forget the actor's name, but he's really good. Like, can you do this dialogue, because we need someone to do it, and we don't feel like paying them.
Paul Sun-Hyung Lee,
so good.
Yeah, he's spectacular.
So I wish they hadn't done that to my man Carson, but they did, and
and he's got plenty of time to redeem himself too.
Indeed, he does.
But my last little point there was Hera has basically lost her whole crew now, except Chopper. There's no one around from the Rebels Phoenix Squadron anymore now that Ahsoka is gone and Sabine is gone. Ahsoka's kind of left alone. So is this going to be the time that Ahsoka finally calls for Zeb?
Hera.
Sorry, Hera calls for Zeb.
Calls for Zeb.
I certainly hope so.
That it ties in with my theory that we'll see him by the end of the season.
He could be her character witness when they're trying to strip her of rank.
Ah, you're right. Yep.
I hope so. Or even
or they strip her of her rank and she's like, I need a team and I'm gonna hit up Zeb.
Well, honestly, I hope they do strip her of her rank.
Because
it
then they strip her.
Yeah.
And then she gets a hold of Zeb, and then they get a hold of Fulcrum, whatever that dude's name is, the old Fulcrum, and they get the whole band back together.
You got to be rebelling against something. There's no shame in rebelling against the New Republic while you're at it.
Oh my God, this is going to be Rebel season.
So is this what you look like, Review Fangirl?
Is Callus still alive?
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, he's over. He's hanging out somewhere. I don't think we didn't hear about his death. So
no, he was alive at the end of Rebels.
Okay,
he lived with Zeb's. Right. He was basically welcomed in by Zeb's
colony
species.
Yeah. No, that's right.
I imagine he. Yeah, because that was the end of Jedi when they were doing that whole montage.
Yeah.
Spoilers. Nick.
But yeah, no, it would be really fun to see Callus show up again.
Oh no, just Fulcrum. Fulcrum.
Nick is never gonna remember that by the time he gets to Rebels. He's got 7 seasons of Clone Wars to get through. By the time
he
gets
movie.
To Rebels, yeah, he's gonna be stuck on the Mortis trilogy by the time he gets to Rebels. So.
Ouch.
There'll be this little light in the back of his mind, like, I remember this.
Yeah, I'll come back to this and go, oh my God, I get it. I get it all.
That's what they're talking about. Yeah. Yeah, and once you do watch all of those, Ahsoka's you're gonna be like, oh my God, this is why Josh is fangirling so much. I get it now. Okay.
Rebels is my favorite series.
Yes.
So that's why I get 2 episodes.
Depending on how Ahsoka ends up or this Mandoverse, I don't know, man. This all might be.
Ahsoka is Rebels season 5.
So. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Oh, I gotta tell my wife. Hey, I'm right.
Isn't that such a great feeling?
Documentation.
I wish I could have that feeling. I'm never right though. I don't have much else to talk about for the episode before segments. I did hear people complaining about that this episode does not move the plot forward. Would you guys agree with that, Nick? Do you think this episode was more of a filler, or do you think the plot was still moved forward?
I think the plot actually went forward, especially with not very often. Okay, we heard that, Steve.
I win an argument every 7 years or so.
I know that feeling. I mean, we found out that the not Ezra was, an expendable character. So
We might see him again. His helmet is still in the
and-
opening credits.
wasn't that the Mando helmet? That was
the several helmets, but his helmet is there. So
Yeah, it's still there.
Dathomir's sister can reconjure him if
He's
necessary.
not the bad guy from Hellboy, okay? It's not like sand comes. You just put sand back in him, and
Well, no, if he was conjured by Morgan Elsbeth, I'm sure she could just do it again.
Yeah. And
wow,
who knows
yeah,
what
that's
she
true.
needed in order to get him.
Oh, I'd be so pissed if I was Merrick and
the
he
battle
just keeps getting
within
raised
Ahsoka,
over and over
like-
and dying. Ugh.
Son of a bitch.
He's a
Yeah.
Power Rangers putty.
It'd be like
Oh
Little
my
Nicky, where
God.
he dies all
That's
these different
hilarious.
times. And
Those stuntmen had a great
There's
20-year.
There's a throwback.
yeah.
No, the internal struggle with Ahsoka definitely helped things go forward because, you know, I know some people have been complaining about her stoic attitude in the beginning with Sabine, and she didn't want to really go, you know, I don't really want her as an apprentice anymore because, you know, she left and then, oh, wait, so her working out some of her own demons and then coming
Was
back even
huge.
stronger is a major plot point. And
Which is why I think this
now
takes place
she,
after Mando.
well,
And
regardless
sorry,
of
I
that,
was
it's
distracted
just
for a
as
minute
far
there
as
by
this
trying to
story,
be Steve's head.
you were Steve's head. And you did, you know, an okay job.
Got to get the camera directions going the right way.
What happened?
Right?
When you were showing off your shirt,
But
Oh,
yeah,
I was being your head.
yeah, you were headless there, and but no, I think that all of that was core to her character and needed that in order for you to be ready to jump to the next to the next galaxy and save the day.
Phil, would you agree that the plot moved forward, or was this more of a filler episode?
I think it moved as far forward as it needed to for being the 5th episode of an 8-episode series. I mean, it served as our opening of the second half, and we're again if they're trying to pace this to the point where they're going to do a second season, then we can't go, you know, just immediately be like, boom, Thrawn, and go.
Right.
It's not how narrative structure works.
There have to be stakes created.
Let me put my English degree to use. That's not how the narrative structure would need to work in this case.
Right.
Are you actually reading that the people think this didn't advance the plot?
Yeah, I've read a lot of things about that. Yeah.
Josh spends too much time reading comments on social media.
Did they
I
watch
spend a
the
lot of
same
time on
episode
social
as
media.
us?
Yes.
I mean,
I don't think they watched the same
your job
episode.
right now. But no, I don't think they did either, Steve. I think it was a perfectly fine step forward. I don't think it needed to do more than it did. And I think some of the complaints about it not being as plot heavy are just because it was a longer episode.
Mm-hmm.
The whales literally went forward through space. Like, I don't know what the fuck else.
They don't. Have you ever driven a whale, Steve? They don't have a reverse gear.
I think a big part of the complaint is that those people that are complaining are the same people that watched Rebels and Clone Wars, and they know all this stuff already, and so they're complaining because their plot didn't get moved forward, whereas the people that still need to get caught up are getting caught up in this episode. And so, yeah, for someone like me that, you know, obsesses over Rebels, it might kind of have been considered a filler episode. I still don't consider it a filler episode. I think Nick is right in the fact that moving her character forward to becoming an actual Jedi, to then train later on, whatever it is. But I like I said, I think the people complaining are just ones that wanted to see Thrawn right now.
So are you saying that because we already knew that
whales
obviously she was going to have to ride a whale to the next thing, like we knew that, but she didn't know that because she hadn't quite gotten there yet, that's why, like,
kind of.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
And that's the whole point. Is like you didn't know that. You didn't know anything about those Clone Wars battles. You didn't know about the Siege of Mandalore, and to bring those back and catch you up was the whole point of this episode, and to actually drive it forward. So
and we've gotten nods to the siege in from Bo-Katan
Yes.
in Mando, but not like an outright
scene.
We saw the bombing.
Yeah.
Well, that's two different. That's two
But
different.
that's two different events.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
thing. We saw the destruction, but that was not the overthrowing of Maul. That's not
Right.
the whole.
If Justin is still in the chat, you're about to see a paragraph of the entire timeline. Because the Siege of Mandalore and the Night of the Thousand Years, like his
Yeah,
favorite
no,
episode.
two separate events, years apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. It was not filler for me.
The last thing
no.
I thought this was filler.
No.
Yeah.
To all you filler
As
phobes
somebody
out there,
who's gone through
Go
Naruto
away.
and One Piece,
Enough
this
of
was
your
not
filler bustering.
the filler busters. No, I agree
Yeah,
filler
the
busters.
filler busters need to shut it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna keep writing those people down in my toxicity tweets or whatever.
Putting the
What
X
was
in
that?
toxic.
X and toxicity. That's what it is. Yeah.
I have
Yep.
switched Twitter /X over from for you to following, and so I don't see any of this garbage, and I'm having a much more peaceful life.
I also block any promoted tweet account that comes across. Yeah.
Correct.
I've been doing that for years though. So
I don't spend a lot of time on Twitter. Like I'm there, but I see a lot of this stuff on like Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
People commenting on other things, and I've been in many arguments with some people on Facebook. I actually am friends now with a couple people on Facebook from getting into arguments with them and having civilized debates, which is kind of cool.
I log on to Facebook on my birthday, and that's pretty much it.
just to get that little shot of serotonin.
How many of you love
I get
me?
it.
Okay.
I like them back, and
serotonin.
there's
That's funny.
there's nothing on Facebook that makes me go like, I need to check this.
All right. Well,
let's hit those segments.
Let's get
Roll
out
it.
of here. I know we're spending a lot of time on this episode. It was a great episode, and there was a lot to talk about. So I kind of expected it to go a little bit longer, but
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
yeah. So let's go on to the first segment.
My
Which is
favorite scene of Boba Fett.
So
Yeah.
That was awesome.
still so good.
I'd never seen that cutscene you just created. That's pretty funny. I like it.
Nice.
Thank you. This is the Starlight Killer scene, the part of the episode where we pick our favorite still shot from the episode or whatever we're talking about. This week we're going to start with our wonderful guest, Nick. His shot comes in at the 18-minute mark. Why don't you go ahead and tell us about this shot?
Oof.
When you see him walking away and he's got his lightsaber out and he's going into the fog, you're like Frey, and then you see the silhouette change to Vader and then back to him. It's almost like it's going to happen, but even still, you see it happen. You're like, God damn, that's cool. Like the quick foreshadowing of what the duality of you need to keep fighting. And look what that happens to him, because that's his mentality at that point, is to just keep on fighting. And then, it was such a powerful image that I'm like, and there was a lot of powerful images. That one just, oh man.
Yeah.
I went back and I
Nick.
saw that. I was like, shit.
And a wonderful throwback to the original Phantom Menace poster.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. With Jake
Yes.
Lloyd and the shadow up on the house going to Vader. Yeah. With Nick, somewhere around here, I still actually have the theatrical release poster from episode
so
3.
cool.
That has
nice.
Anakin with his cape billowing up into Vader's helmet. And it's like,
I love that. Yeah, I remember that.
So excellent shot. Absolutely choice.
Yeah, agreed. I will throw out So Steve joined really, really quick. I didn't have any time to pick any segments for him.
That's fine.
So we
You can
got
pick my segments on the
Justin-
finale.
Yeah, absolutely. But
Ow.
Justin's scene was kind of along the same lines with Anakin shifting back and forth between Vader and Anakin.
As he approached Ahsoka.
Yeah, and this
So
scene was really good. I'm really disappointed that Justin's not here to talk about it because it was one of the cooler shots. Both of those scenes where he morphs from Anakin to Vader and just kind of reminding Ahsoka of what he became and where she is heading if she continues down, the path of
His path, basically.
It's
Yeah,
such a nice nod to Empire, to the cave scene from Empire
exactly.
with Luke fighting the vision of Vader and seeing his own face in the helmet after he kills
Right.
him. It's such a nice
absolutely.
nod to that.
And I think Ahsoka kind of using the dark side in the last episode a little bit because she absolutely tapped into it when she threw
When
shit
she's fighting
against the
Balin.
wall.
Oh yeah.
And fighting Balin as well when he gets under her skin and she just drop kicks his ass. Like she was absolutely tapping into the dark side there a little bit. And so for her to come to the realization that what she was doing was taking her down a path similar to Vader was really cool, and I appreciate that a lot. So,
But also, I think he's also showing like, hey, maybe, yes, I committed some atrocities, and it was the wrong time in that path, but in the end, it seems that Anakin achieved balance through, channeling both rage and serenity, which the Jedi were like, no anger, no emotion, no nothing, and it got them all killed.
Yeah.
So, you need to find the balance. Your
Yep.
anger can be useful. Just don't give in to it. Use it.
absolutely.
Now I'm quoting Blade Trinity.
Jeez.
God, I need
Phil
to go back
Shot-
and rewatch those. I saw the first one again fairly recently.
Blade 1 is so good. I hope
The
So
first one is still
good.
the best.
It was
fuck it up, Marvel.
Anybody that can say the last line he says, some
Motherfuckers always trying to ice skate
uphill.
Actually, my favorite. It still remains like my favorite scene in all of Marvel. I'm gonna give it up there in my top 5. All of Marvel is he comes into the hospital and the cops shoot him and motherfucker, you out your damn mind?
What the fuck are you out of your damn mind?
I love
Dialogue is only Wesley Snipes could deliver.
I love Marcel Ali, but I really
Right?
hope they don't fuck it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
We'll see on the other side of
they
the
still need
strike.
to write it. So yeah.
We'll see on the other side of the strike.
With real writers and not AI.
Yep.
Right?
Phil's shot comes in at the 26-minute and 36-second mark, and it was a shot that I was going to choose as well, but Phil got it. So tell us about this shot.
So this is Ahsoka after her encounter with Anakin, as the world between worlds is beginning to dissipate, as she's starting to kind of return to the real world. And it's just such a gorgeous reflection shot because you have Ahsoka standing on the pathway, you get her reflection below, you get kind of rainfall, and the world between worlds is just kind of melting around her, and it's absolutely gorgeous. This episode and my shot from last week of her with her duel with Balin, they have been killing it on the background work in these. It's absolutely gorgeous and just showcases the incredible work by the VFX team.
Yep.
So,
and Dave is really good at these wide shots.
yeah,
he's really
and
perfected
just
those things,
that she's slightly out of center, that
Yeah.
she's not, that it's zoomed back, that it's the wide shot, that it's her slightly off center. It's a well framed shot. You get just enough of the reflection below her to still make it obvious that it's, a reflection. It just a well done scene, just a really well filmed scene.
Absolutely.
I think that one could be a painting. And
Yeah.
people
No,
would
that
know
that
what
could
it was.
be.
Yeah.
You could sell prints of that.
I would love to
Yeah.
have that on my wall.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah, Nick.
definitely-
Hey, buddy.
I had actually
Uh,
had some art ideas from this. There was that scene where they were standing at the edge of the I don't know, what would you call it, the diaphragm.
The
You see
henge.
like the water. Yeah.
Yeah. When they're at the edge of the
Not,
when they're
but
at the
the
henge.
side view.
Yeah.
When
Oh.
the robot is
Mhm.
holding her helmet.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
with Hu Yang holding
Yeah.
Sabine's helmet.
When it's
Yeah.
like half of it is just the ocean and the other one is just the. I'm like, right
Yeah.
there. That could
Yeah.
be a poster right there.
Yeah.
Hu Yang holding her helmet was very reminiscent of young Boba holding Django's helmet.
Holding.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Such a
Yeah.
nice
Another
nod.
callback.
Such a nice nod to episode 2.
Yeah,
and
the callbacks, man.
and in that earlier in that sequence, we also got Hera using the big handheld scanner.
Yes, from Empire.
But yeah, we saw those in Empire on Hoth. I was like,
Yep.
So.
Speaking of shots that I would love to have a poster of, my Starlight
it.
Killer scene comes in at the 28-minute and 39-second mark, and it's one of my favorite shots of the entire series so far. And this is something that's
That is
it's
very
such a
reminiscent.
cool ship. Man.
And it's very reminiscent of Rebels when you'd see the Ghost come in a lot. You know, you'd see these kind of shots with like Ezra standing there, and you see the Ghost
Anytime they're coming
towards
back
you.
in to land on Lothal, any of the
Yeah, man.
yeah.
I had 3 or 4 different shots that I wanted to choose from, and now on these episodes I've just been showing my shots as the episode goes on because like I just can't choose one, so I just gotta show them all. But this one was, I don't know, it spoke to me a little bit because it was just like, fuck, man, this is awesome. This is like something that as a Star Wars fan I have wanted for a long time, to have a show that makes me feel again, you know. Andor did a really good job with that, but Ahsoka and Mandalorian have been really, really tugging on my Star Wars heartstrings, and I appreciate it a lot.
They've been hitting the emotional tones really, really well.
Yeah.
Which in Ahsoka especially is a testament to Filoni's writing.
Absolutely.
Now, if only we could get this heartstring tugged on in a movie theater.
Oh,
You
it'll
could
happen. It's
have.
coming. Well,
You
not
could
really.
have.
I guess you guys in California
Tuesday night,
can.
you could have. But
It was released in such limited amount.
they
of
did
theaters,
a
like,
highly limited theatrical release for this episode. Actually,
What?
Yeah.
Oh, you,
like-
know,
It was-
you guys mentioned that, but I thought you were talking about something else.
no,
There
no.
was one in L.A. You guys could have totally made that one, but there was nothing close to Omaha.
You know, I
or
have started
Denver,
doing
so.
panoramic travel posters for Star Wars, so maybe I need to do one for this planet.
Come
Tito's.
visit, lovely warm Mustafar.
Yeah, right.
Awesome.
No
Some
Tatooine
of those
ones,
posters
please.
out there are just kind
Sunny
of boring.
Tatooine.
No Tatooine.
That's so good. Well,
So-
excellent picks, guys. These were just
You don't have mine like drawn up, but mine, of course, would be when the Purgle just rises in front of Ahsoka. I
Yeah.
think Dave Filoni was
Oh,
watching
yeah.
Firefly when he wrote that scene, and so
wonderful.
Yeah.
true.
Oh,
But
that,
I was actually sitting there on my couch going like, oh, and then like right after I made the gesture with my hand, for those of you
It
listening to
came up.
podcast land, like I just raised my hand, and then sure enough, like the Purgle came up to face her. I'm like, yeah, that's the only place he could have been.
Yeah.
So-
That kind of reminded me of when Darth Vader's TIE fighter rose up in Rebels and he was standing on top of it in front of Ezra, and it kind of rises up in front of him. I think it was season 2 that happens, but
Was it rising up, or I think he was coming down? Like he was standing on top of it, but he was coming down through the hole.
oh,
of the,
was he coming down? That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
But either he coming into the shot, basically.
Exactly,
It was
yeah.
kind of like
and it was like, I think they're here.
yeah, but excellent picks, guys. They just keep getting better and better, and this season definitely warrants a nice collage at the end that I will build with all of our different shots because they have been wonderful. So let's move on to the next segment for this week. which, as always, is the One-Chimer segment, the part of the show where we talk about our favorite set of dialogue from each episode. So let's keep that trend running and go with Nick. Here's his set One-Chimer.
You're certain they know where Sabine was taken?
I have no idea.
What?
No idea. We'll just see where it goes.
It could go anywhere.
I know. That's better than going nowhere.
So I had to
so
throw
good, man.
I had to throw all of that in there because the original line from Nick is it's better than going
Better than
nowhere. But I had just that whole scene.
But
is
yeah,
so
there's the
good.
context
Yeah.
to it.
You don't
Yeah.
know.
And Hu Yang is just wonderful. in that.
It's
Again, David Tennant, delightful.
yeah, it's a very way of looking at it. Like it's not the journey, it's not the destination, it's the journey. And that's kind of where she's going on with that. Like, if you don't try, you're never gonna know. And at least we're going somewhere instead of nowhere. So I thought that was incredibly poignant.
So
Definitely.
everyone took my one-timers this week. I get it. Okay.
Hey, you still get him covered.
Great
Hey,
month.
this just means, we're all of the same wavelength, which is A-okay.
Yeah, and it's definitely foreshadowing that we're probably not going to see Thrawn until the last episode. We're probably not going to see
Probably
much
not.
of those guys because Ahsoka's going to get taken to this other galaxy and have no clue where she is. So, or
And
they
blue
just get
people are
lucky.
expensive.
You think we're gonna have an episode of like the whales like hopping around until they find the right place? Like
Like in Guardians of the Galaxy. where they
Road
just keep
trip!
galaxy
I think they're
hopping.
going to have a
Oh.
dance party first.
Purgle road
know.
trip.
actually, I'm thinking more for any Battlestar fans in the house. There's an episode where they're trying to track some Cylon ship, and the thing just keeps jumping and jumping and jumping and jumping. It's like there's an episode where they just light jump about 7 times, and they're trying to catch up with this thing. And each time they jump, the one of the characters is having an existential crisis in a world between worlds. I made the connection.
Yeah.
Battlestar
kind of
BSG
waiting
20,
for,
December 2023.
The Enterprise crew in their stolen Klingon bird come and try to take one of the whales because their future
Where do
is
you
being,
keep your nuclear whistles?
better be
We're
whales.
doing Star
here.
Trek 4 right now. Is that what's going on? What's happening?
Sorry. He went Battlestar. I'm like, all right.
That's so
I
funny.
gotta mention the elephant.
Excellent pick, Nick. Thank you for that one.
Now we've gone like full circle.
Oh man, we're gonna move on to Justin's one-chimer real quick and play that. Even though he's not here, he had a wonderful segment for this.
This one's for you, Justin.
Yes.
One is never too old to learn, Snips.
First time you see Anakin actually say snips to Ahsoka. I mean, we heard it in the last episode, but it wasn't like that.
Yeah, you don't get to see Hayden Christensen deliver the line. And it's such a nice callback, again, to Clone Wars, where, the nickname is just thrown in as a great establishing moment where it's like, we don't know how these two met, but they have this bond already, and it's played for very well here.
Yeah, I agree, and it's a great pick. It's like one of the first lines of the entire show, and I thought it was
And really sets up the whole experience for Ahsoka in the world between worlds.
Yep. So thank you, Justin, for that pick. Let's go on to Phil's one-chimer.
Yeah, she is tenacious.
So was her master.
Yeah? What was he like?
Intense.
The music changed as he was thinking
You
about what to say.
you get a slight musical cue toward the Imperial March, You get just that kind of key change going there. And then Hu Yang just with that one line. Because it's like, okay, of the people in the ship, Hu Yang is the only person who actually knows who Ahsoka's master was.
Yeah.
I was right behind her. They all met Darth Vader. But
They've met Vader. That's the thing. Hera knew at this point, knew Vader. You know, they fought against him. But that she never had that connection between him and Ahsoka it's played so well here.
I don't think even Kanan didn't know that Vader was Anakin.
No.
Yeah, if I recall correctly.
The only time you see it is when Ahsoka hits the side of the mask off. That's when like she realizes that Anakin is Darth Vader.
Yeah. But I mean, even like when Vader first comes into Rebels, like he's just like I feel it, but he didn't go like I know that guy.
Yeah,
he felt the Sith, like it's the dark side of the Force.
There's an evil presence.
Yep. Yeah. The last thing I want to say about that one-liner is Dr. Hu Yang's eyes when he does he does the Michael Scott look where he's like,
You've been waiting all episode to make that,
intense.
Dr. Hu
Oh,
Yang.
I've been doing it all season.
Yeah, he's Professor Hu Yang. But I mean, David Tennant had already been the Doctor prior to his casting in Clone Wars, and so that they threw him a character with "Who" in the name was just kind
Clearly
of a nice
a
nod
reference.
to his most previously well-known role.
Yeah.
There's another accidental one where Peter Capaldi is in World War Z as a
doctor in the World Health Organization. Yeah,
his
credit
is
Who Doctor.
Who Doctor. Yeah. So, and that was before he was cast in the role.
It was
I
great.
forgot about that. That's hilarious.
So good. Well, he'd been in Torchwood at that point.
Really?
The Doctor Who spinoff. He'd been in Torchwood before World War Z.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But I just love his little facial expression because it's that total Michael Scott. He sucked. But
yeah,
excellent pick, Phil. Thank you for that one. That was another one that was gonna be one that I wanted to pick. But I made our notes like the second this episode ended. I made our note sheet that we all fill out because I wanted to put my one chimer in there before anyone else claimed it, and Justin tried, but I shot his ass down. My one chimer is this one.
What just happened?
Jason has abilities. His father, Kanan Jarrus, was a Jedi.
Okay. We better get on it then. Lander!
It's so good.
I mean, I can't say much. It's such a perfect little piece of lore dump again. And it's so subtle, but the audience, like when this aired, and I watch it with my girlfriend all the time, and I looked back at her and she's like, "Okay, that makes sense." I'm like, that's exactly what the entire audience is thinking when Hu Yang says that. They're like, "Oh, okay, cool, yeah, well, moving on."
And just the dry response from Tiva. It's just
it's so good.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I've seen crazier things.
My backup would have been another Carson Teva line of, "Well, you're not going to believe me, but okay."
Yeah.
And then they smash cut away from his entire explanation.
Yeah, I love that. Carson had
Once
some really
upon
good
a
lines.
time.
Yeah. But
so there's these space whales.
I know
that particular thing though is it made me laugh so much because I'm like, that is the entire audience that has never seen Rebels right there. Like he is speaking for the entire audience when he says, "Cool, moving on." So.
Well, and so is Hu Yang. He's like, "Hey, how many people don't know that this kid's father was a Jedi?"
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. So just an awesome episode of lore dump and bringing people to speed, and now everyone is on the same page, I feel like, and we all know what's going on. So it's time to get to the meat of this story. Excellent picks, guys, for the one-chimers. As always, I love doing that segment. It's one of my favorites. So let's go on to the third and final segment of the evening. which is the Tuscan Raider, the part of the show where we rate each episode out of 10. And we're going to rate this one out of 10.
Purgles.
We've done Purgles already, though.
Oh, okay.
Let's do 10 Clone Wars.
10 clones.
Clones, there we go. 10 clones.
10
Thank you.
Sieges of Mandalore.
Yep. Yes.
Oh.
10 parsecs. Courtesy of Kessel Run.
Well, Nick, what would you rate this episode out of 10?
I think it was probably a high 8.
Okay.
Because there's always room for improvement. And it's no Empire, so that's like a 10.
All right. High 8. So
yeah.
I'll say what,
High
8.5?
Sure. Or 8.75.
Oh, we're
Sure,
going to make him do
8.75.
more
Let's
complicated
do it.
math
That's
again.
fine.
Oh, we all have
Good thing he has a calculator. It's a good thing he has a
Thank God I have
calculator.
a calculator. Fucking
I
Steve,
think
what would
even
you...
worse, like 8.92.
Bring it. I'll do it. Here we go. 9.2. There we go. Steve, what's your rating for this episode?
It seems to be a tradition at this point, but I keep getting these good 9er episodes. So I think my last rating was a 9. I forget what my Andor was, but I don't care, and I'm gonna give this one a 9 and keep the trend going because I really enjoyed it, and
All right.
I'm really enjoying this 5th season of Rebels.
Huh.
It was my favorite. I continue. It's the only one I've actually rewatched on a regular basis. And Nick, when you get to it, Kanan is not only my favorite. It's my favorite series. Kanan is my favorite Jedi of all.
And he's
Looking forward
voiced
to
by
meeting
Freddie
him.
Prinze Jr.
Yeah, it's my favorite
there
Freddie
you
Prinze
go.
Jr. role.
Yeah, no, he's spectacular in the role. He really
Wait a
is.
minute.
It's
Are
not
there
something you
any
expect
really
from-
good Freddie Prinze Jr. roles other than Kanan?
Have you seen I Know What You Did Last Summer?
No, hang on.
Yeah.
No.
I actually worked
I
with him on
think I
24.
forgot
Yeah,
it.
Scooby Doo.
He was okay in 24, but everyone is just kind of okay next to Jack Bauer,
But he was a blast
except for
on the
Tony
set.
Almeida. Tony Almeida.
No, he was spectacular as Fred in Scooby Doo.
Ah, there we go. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, perfect.
But I'll give him Kanan. That's my favorite Freddie
now
Prinze Jr.
I
role.
understand why Empire is not your favorite movie
No Freddie Prinze Jr.
because you've been drinking too much. Arr.
Phil, what would you rate this episode out of 10?
I got to go with Steve on this one. I got to call it a 9. Again, my only real complaint is that we didn't get voice bits from Ashley Eckstein and Dee Bradley Baker,
Or just voice bits in the World Between Worlds.
or yeah, no, voice bits in the World Between Worlds would have been spectacular, but maybe overlapping too much with the whole bit they do with Rey in the sequel trilogy when she gets all of the different Sith and Jedi voice
yeah.
flashes.
Yeah.
But you're also
So-
assuming that
That
That may have been, like,
I don't
her
think
own
that was the
personal
real World Between
purgatory.
Worlds.
Yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
it was the real World Between Worlds.
Well, I mean, there was no portal that we saw.
Mhm.
There was no physical transportation that we saw. So yeah,
The steps are the same.
but point being, we're still seeing something that is this show's
Reminiscent.
equivalent to the World Between Worlds, and maybe that just has to do with where Anakin is at this point.
Yeah.
Regardless, that would have been the only kind of thing that I could have seen bumping this episode up higher. I would have loved to see it in one of those theatrical runs, but that was not logistically doable. And honestly, that's the only other thing I can think of that might have bumped that up from a 9 to a 10. It was pretty stellar. Best episode of the season so far. I hold out a bit of a score. I mean, I think Thrawn's actual appearance might bump an episode up above a 10. We'll see. We'll see how he's
To
handled.
11.
Yeah.
This one goes to 11.
Why not just make 10 louder?
But this one goes to 11.
These
God, good old
go
Spinal
to-
Tap. So, Justin
We've already
rated this
had a
episode-
It's
Stonehenge.
confused as 9, Joel.
We've already had a Stonehenge. We could have a tiny version of the henge from Cetos at some point. Just-
Oh my god, you guys are killing me.
Now, I
Like-
want to see Spinal Tap performing at the end of the
henge on Cetos.
Star Wars needs more music.
Oh, my goodness.
That'd be amazing.
I need to watch that movie. I think I still have Spinal Tap on DVD. I should watch that.
It's so much fun.
I'm sure it's streaming somewhere. Yeah.
It's got to be. I thought that about Little
we
Giants, but it
we
wasn't.
need a version of it with the band from Star Wars Visions.
That's awesome. That's okay. That would be the only time. That was my least favorite episode.
I
of Visions,
know it
but,
was,
like,
and that's why I brought it up again.
Oh yeah, same song. Same song.
same song. Same song.
Same song.
So Justin rated this episode a 9.5, which is fair. Little backstory. I usually don't do this early on in seasons. I usually wait till later. Last week I rated the episode a 9.5. This week I'm giving it a straight
Drum roll.
10.
Okay.
It's
There's no
And-
build up necessary for that.
and this might be the first time that I've ever rated 2 episodes at a 10. If we get to the end of this series or season and there's Thrawn and it's a good introduction and stuff, that could very well be a 10 as well. But yeah, I loved every second of this, every callback, every scene that we got to see in live action, the things that were introduced to us. I wanted to bring back Boba's Bounty just to talk about Rex and bringing him into live action finally. And
Give us more
you know,
Tamara Morrison.
yeah, and Purgles and seeing them in all their glory. Yeah, we've seen some like reflections of them and seen them a little bit from, far away, but like to see them huge and to see like all of that was incredible. So I'm definitely rating this a 10.
You're still giving it a 10, even though we had the non-SAG Purgles there with the animation
Scab
problems.
whales.
Yeah, and animation problems aside, I will ignore all of that for an amazing story. That none of that stuff matters as long as the story is
Fair enough.
incredible. And I think that this story was incredible. This episode was one of the best pieces of Star Wars that we've gotten in a long time. So I
fair.
have to rate it a 10. That brings our final score up to a 92.84. Thanks for
That's
that.
an A.
But that's really funny because that goes almost exactly to what people rated it on Twitter, which was a 92.7.
Not bad.
Well, even
So-
a broken clock is right twice a day. So.
So we're very, very on par with it, seems to be, and there was 55 votes on Twitter, so a good amount of people voted for it. It wasn't like it was 3 people or anything, but yeah, it seems like the general consensus is this was one of the better episodes of any Star Wars that we've seen in a long time. So wonderful. Yeah. That's going to be it for this week, basically, though. Nick, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you?
Well, I have my main store online at dreamforger.com. And then I'm also on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I've got Threads, really uses Threads. But yeah, I'm
You don't need
all over
more.
the place. I try to post often, but I'm always coming up with new stuff. And if you can join my Patreon, you can even just follow for free. But if you can, throw in a few bucks a month, I do postcards that I send out. There's exclusive portraits. I do some coloring pages based on the art, and each month has a different theme. Like I just did Evil Dead yeah.
Nice.
That's my
And of course,
spiel.
all of those links are going to be in our show notes. So the Patreon link, the Instagram, the Twitter, all of that stuff will be there. So Definitely go
Awesome.
give Nick a follow and support, starving artists, because we're all
I
starving
was
artists. So
honestly, I was browsing your website here in between segments. So you got some good shit on
got
there,
some
man.
good
That's
stuff.
neat.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll put a picture
Thank
of
you.
the Mandalorian aim to misbehave
Yeah,
poster that was
the
created for Comic-Con.
the Firefly travel posters are fun shit. I love that.
So
The white
I'm working on the fifth one. I'm working on the fifth one as we speak.
Nice. Very nice.
Steve,
man.
why don't you tell everyone where they can find you and what you do?
I got a few things going on in the side hustle realm. I'm a woodworker. This is the only thing I have in my vicinity, but it's a actual piece of Padook that's cut to look like a ruby, and it's got my QR code on the back of it, so they can take it off of the art and scan it.
Hey,
That's
nice.
what I do some custom woodworking, and let's see, I'm on the Twitter, the Instagram, and all that. Ta-da-da.
Ta-da.
Silly me, I did them both in different names, so I'm sure if you just do Sincera, you'll find me somewhere. And then I actually have a second Instagram now because I do a vintage T-shirt upcycle flip thing. It's called T Upcycle.
Nice.
I just sold my first one after trying out the new venture, and it happened to be a Mandalorian shirt with Baby Yoda on it. So
That's
there's some good
awesome. I will
signs.
have to check that out, man.
Yeah, T_up_cycle. And then come tomorrow, my wife and I are heading off to Ireland and Tuscany and Venice for our honeymoon. We've been married for 10 years.
Dude, congrats on the anniversary.
That's
and
awesome.
on finally getting to take that trip.
Finally, indeed.
It's
Once
amazing.
we get back, I will be beginning the advertising and pushing for my first podcast, which is a Battlestar Galactica 20-year anniversary rewatch, where I have seen it multiple times, and my friend has seen it multiple times, but my friend Chester has not. And so we'll be going through
the
it.
sudden but inevitable rewatch.
If we can have it on your network, I'm totally down. But we will be doing.
Get at me.
Yeah.
We can.
Unlike there's several other Battlestar rewatch podcasts out there, but they all did it without worrying about spoilers because it's a 20-year-old show. But we will be doing it spoiler free. So if you also have not seen Battlestar Galactica, you can watch along with us.
I have not seen.
We might fail.
I have seen bits of the original, and I have seen bits of Caprica. So I'm on either side. For whatever reason, I'm on either side of the Galactica gap. I don't know.
The 20-year-old one is a pretty hard reboot of the 1970s classic. There's a few elements.
It's Ronald Moore.
Yeah. Yes. There are about 2, maybe 3 episodes that are like directly taken from the original, and other than that, it's pretty much its own show.
Yeah,
and of course Richard Hatch. Hatch came over from one to the other,
which was a spectacular jump.
Indeed, it was. I'm glad they didn't go with the other one where Dirk Benedict was supposed to play God, and he said no. And I think that's the smartest decision anyone has ever made.
Yeah, no, I might have to see about catching up on that so I can jump on there with you.
Now, if he played Face, that would have been awesome. I mean,
we're not pulling back A-Team stuff, man. God, that's the second A-Team reference I've gotten today. This is horrible.
The 2009 A-Team has a direct Star Trek reference.
Brilliant.
I'll be dropping that in December of this year, right on the 20th anniversary, and fingers crossed that I have learned enough about podcasting from you guys that I can do it myself.
Hey, man,
I believe
you
in
can
you,
always
man.
hit
That
me
theme
up.
song is stuck in your head, isn't it, Phil?
It's been in there all day. It literally has been in there since like 10 o'clock this morning.
The age
of
almost 11 awesome
hours.
TV theme songs.
That's fucking great.
It's terrible.
I'm in the rare minority where I actually appreciated the Liam Neeson reboot. I liked it.
It wasn't bad.
I did too.
Brooklyn was fun in that too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I do want to thank you guys all again for joining us. Of course, all of the links that we have just mentioned, including Phil's links, that he's, they're all in the show notes. So definitely go click on those, follow everyone, support the local artists, support the underground podcasters. We wouldn't do this stuff if we didn't have friends that actually listen to the show. So definitely watch out for Steve's Battlestar show coming out soon. I am going to be checking that out because I've never seen Battlestar, so I will definitely be following along and enjoying.
We're gonna try and even do like 30-second short films to go with every episode, where it's like a Battlestar Galactica Lower Decks kind of a thing. But I need to either find a way to have a green screen or an actual set and figure it out. But
get a green screen, dude. Amazon, $20. You'll be fine.
And then figure out how to use it.
It's really easy.
Yeah.
Or you could just use one of those jib jab animations, just put the face on a doll and
it would be throughout the series. Spoiler alert: there's the pilots and the mechanics and the command. They all have character arcs, but the Marines are just kind of there. And so I always want to do every episode. The Marines are just down in the decks.
What are they doing? Well,
one will never put down the newspaper, and the other one's is that the nuclear alarm? Yeah, probably.
Oh my
goodness. Cool. We're in space. What the fuck are we gonna do?
Well, this has been a ton of fun, guys. Thank you all again so much for coming on the show. We are going to get out of here. We've been doing this for over 2 hours now, so I believe it's time for us to maybe get some sleep. I know it's almost midnight where I'm at right now, and I got to work tomorrow. So it's we're gonna do a little bit of sign off. We'll go me, Phil, Steve, then Nick, and then all carry us out. So for Quest Me, I have been your host.
I'm Phil.
I'm Justin Stunt Double.
I'm Nick.
And of course, my name is Josh. We will see you all again next week. May the Force be with you.